Good morning. Glad everybody's here. I talk loud, so I'm never sure where to put that thing. Until I finally hear it either echo or ring a certain way, and then, or somebody gives me signals they too loud. So. We're going to continue where we've been getting our lessons from. So, as I mentioned before, Mike and I are using a companion book. Right now, we're looking at James, and so we'll start off with this week's lesson. So, some stuff I prepared before, and then we'll get into the scripture itself and go. But when I'm preparing for this, I'm looking for like I say, I have the guide, I have the lesson, but I'm looking for some other things in there sometimes. What I wrote down was the Word of God is whole. It's complete. It encompasses how we live our lives as followers of God. It actually takes the time to give us examples how to pattern our behavior. So the examples that we're given, the words that we're given, the commandments that we're given, this is all so that we can figure out what it is we're supposed to do in our daily lives. It shows us that the only person that was able to inhabit the earth and walk among us, sinless, blameless, was God in the form of Christ. So we have the perfect example. And then we have other examples of men and women that were able to listen to God's commandments, to live godly lives. But Christ was the only one able to come to the earth and not have shortcomings, not have sin, not miss the mark. As a teenager, as a young adult, I got your attention when I said teenager. Man, you're hitting my phone the line. But as a teenager and a young adult, there were times when I would read certain passages or books of the Bible and think, I wonder if this doesn't seem relevant to me somehow. What I'm reading now, is this something that applies to my life right now? How do I make it apply to my life right now? And, it just didn't make sense to me. How in the world could this that was written down so long ago still be, for me? The world has changed so much. You look at the advancements in medicine, you look at the advancements in technology, and the changes in society from the time that these books were written until today. And until, like I said, at the time when I was a teenager and an adult. So you see all these changes, and sometimes you think, I wonder about this topic. Well, this topic may be on something that we don't have this exact issue today, but there's usually something that's pretty close. And so what I learned as I wrote down as I continue to mature, however slow that might be. So I don't need any help with that one. I know it's been slow. It continues to be slow. But knowing all that, there's three things that seem to be always constant. So human nature, God's love, and the devil's desire to lead us away. Those are the constants. So we struggle, we fight the daily battle with our human nature and try to keep our eyes focused on God. And then, like I say, obviously the devil is constantly trying to pull us away, to find us a path that feels comfortable to us, to find us a path that seems easy. And so you start down that path, and the next thing you know, you're so far away. You feel like you're completely far away. Some folks feel like they've strayed so far they can't see. They can't find their way back. And we all know that's actually not the case. God is always there. He's always accessible to us. We can always get back to it. But this particular lesson today, for me, the James 3, 1 through 10, I'll read that here in just a minute, but James 3, 1 through 10 is a lesson that to me, it rings true like the words are still wet on the page. And there is no way to tell that this wasn't written yesterday as far as what it's talking about. So I'm going to read that passage, James 3, 1 through 10. I've got the ESV version. Not many of you should become teachers, my brothers, for you know that we who teach will be judged with greater strictness. For we all stumble in many ways. And if anyone does not stumble in what he says, he is a perfect man, able also to bridle his whole body. If we put bits into the mouths of horses so they obey us, we guide their whole bodies as well. Look at the ships also. Though they are so large and are driven by strong winds, they are guided by a very small rudder, wherever the pilot directs. So also the tongue is a small member, yet it boasts of great things. How great a forest is set ablaze by such a small fire. The tongue is a fire, a world of unrighteousness. The tongue is set among our members, staining the whole body, setting on fire the entire course of life, and set on fire by hell. For every kind of beast and bird, of reptile and sea creature can be tamed, and has been tamed by mankind. But no human being can tame the tongue. It is a restless evil, full of deadly poison. With it we bless our Lord and Father, and with it we curse the people who are made in the likeness of God. From the same mouth come blessing and cursing. My brothers, these things ought not be so. So like I said, I read this. The issue that we all face, controlling the tongue. It actually even states that no man can do this. So Christ is the only human who's ever been on this earth that walked as a man. He's the only one who was able to do this. He was the only one who was able to control his tongue completely. So, looking at this verse, the first time James actually brings up controlling the tongue was actually in chapter 1, in 26. He says, if anyone thinks he is religious and does not bridle his tongue, but deceives his heart, this person's religion is worthless. So, James seems to always kind of start out, he brings it up, kind of mentions it in like his opening, and then he'll come back and actually specifically address it a little later. So, James 3:10 is where James 3, 1 through 10 is where he starts this. Looking at it, relevancy-wise, this topic goes back. When you look at how we use our tongue, I wrote down an example in Genesis 3, verse 12. God is questioning Adam after he has eaten from the tree in the middle of the garden. And Adam doesn't say, when God starts asking him what's going on, Adam doesn't start off by saying, I'm sorry, I was weak, I gave in and I failed your commandments. He doesn't start off on that. Adam chooses the words, the woman whom you gave to be with me, she gave me the fruit of the tree and I ate it. So, he instantly, first thing that, the first confrontation, the first issue that comes up between God and man. Man chooses, I'll blame God for this one. I did it. But I did it, and I did it because of somebody that you gave. It was your fault. It wasn't mine. He did, like I say, didn't apologize. Didn't say, I failed. He said, I failed because of something else. Yeah, I did it, but this is why. And the this is why was an excuse. So that's the first time you see that progression of behavior. The tongue also an instrument that can do good and bad. Solomon in Proverbs 12, verse 18. There is one whose rash words are like sword thrusts, but the tongue of the wise brings healing. So we always get the phrase that the tongue is a double-edged sword. So one edge can be used for good, one edge gets used for bad. It seems like in my, when I think back over my lifetime, which side of the blade did I use the most? Did I use the side that helped somebody? Did I use the side that comforted somebody, or that brought them closer to God, that brought me closer to God? Or did I use the other side? Which side of your blade, when you think about it, which side of your tongue's blade is more worn? The problem is, whenever the side of the blade that's more worn is the side that takes people down, that hurts, that gossips, that deceives. The worst thing about that instrument, a normal sword, the more you use it, the side you use gets dull and duller and duller. With your tongue, the side you use the most is sharper. So if you use the side all the time that tears people down, you get really good at it. If you are talking about things that are going on, if you're involved, like I say, if gossip, if it's just not building somebody up, unfortunately, that part of your tongue, that side of your tongue just gets sharper. It doesn't, it's not there to help you. When you read the verses, it's a restless evil full of deadly poison, and there's no denying what James is talking about. And I think we all know. I think we can all think back on times in our life where we've said something to somebody. Even if you go back and you apologize for it. You say something, you hurt somebody's feelings, you know you did. Maybe they don't even say anything to you. But you go back and you apologize, but you always live with it. You think about it. It's there. People that you can't reach out to anymore. People that you don't see anymore. People that have passed on. There's a lot of people who live with regret over things that they've said. And it may be something where the person that you said it to really doesn't remember it anymore. They've forgotten about it. But because of what it is, it bothers you. It sticks in your mind. It stays with you. You carry it around. And I don't know that that's a bad thing. That's a reminder, maybe, that how sharp the tongue is. And how like I said, the more you use it for wrong, the sharper it becomes, the easier it is to use it. So last week, we talked about works. And we talked about works in the context of faith and works. And I think the question got asked, are words works? And we answered the question. What came to my mind was, from the beginning, God spoke everything into existence. Sure. Go ahead. No. You sure?
I was just going to say, you were emphasizing on something that personal is me, and that person because God is on the flip side. Somebody, especially depending on the relationship with the person to you, the person sees something to you. Sometimes those words are never forgotten.
That's true.
That sharp edge of that short sword is just something that you can never get past.
Right.
So, and I think a lot of times it just depends on the type of relationship or who that person is that has spoken those words.
Right. So the statement is that, I mentioned that just, you say something to someone, maybe they forgive you for it, they don't remember it, and you do. And Connie's comment is the other side of that, which is someone says something to you that you're never able to let go. You're never able to escape it, when it gets all the way to your heart. It cuts so deep that it never seems to heal. And that's something that, you have to be mindful of. And there are times, if you can keep that in mind, I guess, that helps be a good motivation of why you control your tongue. Of when something happens, and most all of us at least have one or two of those in our minds, I think. I think we can all think back of something that was said to us based on the relationship the person who said it to. So a parent, a grandparent, a brother, a sister, brother or sister in Christ, somebody that you very much value. When that sharp tongue comes your way, it may not ever leave. That may cut all the way down and never heal. And, trying to figure out how to use those things, how to remind yourself that, I remember when that happened to me. How do I not do this to somebody else? That's a great So like I said, you think about about words and works. And as I mentioned, everything started, God spoke it into existence. It doesn't say God used his hand. And when he gets to other things, but the beginning of the earth and the creatures on it, God is speaking into existence. When you look at the bonds of marriage, so you got a preacher, you got a bride, you got a groom, the things that they say result in what happens. So their words that they speak result in a bond being formed. So they do count as words. Words can, we talked about, they can build up, they can tear down. And the focus on the section that I went through is mostly on the power of words to tear down. And when you read James's passage, that's really what this is mostly focused on. It's not focused on edification. This is focused more on why you have to control your tongue, not using your tongue for good. That's the warning is all about how you use it in a sense where it can be harmful. James 3, starts off with that warning. Words are the tools of a teacher, and we have to be careful. So, one example, Matthew 28, 19 through 20. Jesus told the disciples to go and make disciples of the world and teach them to observe his commandments. And it's recognized that, we're all not the same. Our ability to teach others is going to differ. Sometimes that difference is going to come from difference in knowledge. So, am I equipped properly to teach? Do I know what to do? Do I know the subject? Do I understand myself before I go to try to teach somebody else? So, some of us may lack that knowledge. Others of us may lack the communication skill. So there's an issue where we have a hard time talking to people. There's people who can't get up and speak. For my job, I get up and talk to groups between, it could be 5. I think the biggest one was like 100. The great thing about those people is I don't know any of them. So whenever I see them, I might see them for 2 days, and then I might not see them again for a year. And the bigger the room, the more full, not bigger the room, the more full the room, the easier it is. For me, when I go to talk, it's more, you get more done the smaller the group though. I found out that if I've got 5 people, you make that connection with the folks, and you may worry about it at the beginning, but you can usually kind of get past that, and it feels more familiar, it feels more like a conversation. But the scariest number of people to talk to is 1. So, at least for me, what's hard for me is to sit down. If I'm gonna teach a lesson like this, the hardest thing I can imagine is teaching this lesson for 1. It's bad enough to teach it to this one, but to have it one-on-one for me is very difficult. So, like I said, there's difference in abilities. As far as communication, like I say, and knowledge. But all Christians teach at some level. We teach whether we want to or not as well. So sometimes you teach people just by your actions and by your words when you're not in a situation where you've been designated as the teacher. So other people still look. Children hear, they watch. Our co-workers watch. They hear you come in and hear you talk about what happened in church Sunday or what happened in church Wednesday. And then they see how you reacted on Tuesday, Thursday. So you're teaching people about you, and you're not necessarily teaching them about Christ. You should be, we all should be, but we don't always do that. So knowing that we can all teach it at some level, we have to be careful that we're not leading somebody astray or leading somebody down a path that's harmful to them. So one of the questions I wrote down, so what do we teach people that aren't baptized? Man of salvation. So we teach them the steps that they need to go through in order to be saved. What do we teach them next? next. We teach that a lot. Well, now I know we've talked about having like a new converts class or something, but what do you teach them next? What's the next thing? There are some groups, and this is something that's important to know, at least in my opinion. Sometimes maybe what we should teach them is, your salvation is a daily thing. So you have to stay on the path. You can't turn back. There are some groups that teach, once you're saved, you're always saved. You can't lose it. Nothing you can do can take your salvation away from you. But we know that's not true. You look at Luke 9:62. It says that Jesus said to him, "No one who puts his hand to the plow and looks back is fit for the kingdom of God." So we know that it's something that can be lost. Salvation is something that's available to us, but our actions, our words, the way we live our life, actually can turn us back. 2 Peter chapter 2, verses 20 through 21 reads, "For if, after they have escaped the defilements of the world through the knowledge of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, they are again entangled in them and overcome, the last state has become worse for them than the first. For it would have been better for them to never have known the way of righteousness, than after knowing it, to turn back from the holy commandment delivered to them." So we do know that it is possible to go the wrong way. And that's something that we have to teach. We have to, people have to understand that, they've chosen to follow the gospel. They make that commitment, and then they have to know what to do next. So something that we have to be mindful of whenever we are teaching folks. Looking at back into James makes a statement that I think is kind of easy to pass over without taking the time to look at it. But he says the person that has control over his tongue is able to control his whole body, and that's really where he gets into the next section. So he wants to start using illustrations, and he's going to gear the illustrations towards what the people that he's speaking to, that he's writing to, what they understand. So first thing he starts talking about is a horse and a bit. And at the time, some donkeys and oxen, and those were beasts of burden. A horse was an instrument of war. The horse was agile. It was large. It was fast. It was a powerful animal. So that's a special animal reserved for special tasks. You don't want to have your horse out trying to plow the field. You want to have your horse so he's agile, he's fast. The idea is this is a tool. This horse is a tool, but it's a tool made for war. This, like I said, some of this I got from the companion book, but that's how they viewed it. So once domesticated and broken, a horse became basically a military unit. And in order to control the power of this animal, they put a bit in the horse's mouth. And a really relatively small device, but allowed the rider to have complete control over this animal. And they could direct them where they wanted them to go, they could make them stop. It's really small, but it controls the whole body. And so that was the first example that James used with them. The second one that we read is that the tongue is like a ship's rudder. So, compared to, Tom will ring in for a Navy comment if I need one, I'm sure, but the size of a rudder compared to the size of a ship. If you think about like a large cargo ship now, they're bringing stuff in, freight containers, oil tankers, giant vessels. The rudder, relatively small compared to the size of the vessel. So that's something that his readers would have understood as well. So without a rudder, like I said, it can be small. Without a rudder, though, a ship is just tossed on the wake, just driven by the wind. It can't. The pilot can't determine where to take the ship. He knows where he wants to take it, but if he has no way to control it, it doesn't do him any good. You I want to go this way, but if I don't have a way to steer that way, I'm just going to go where I get pushed. So wind and waves at that point is driving. So looking at that, we know that our tongue isn't a rudder or a bit, but it is a small part of us that has a lot of power and influence. It's able to do a lot of good. It's able to do a lot of bad. When James talks about being a teacher, he includes himself in the cautionary statement. He says we, when we have to be cautious, because as a teacher, James is including himself. So knowing that a teacher gets judged with greater strictness, the good, the bad that we account for will be measured, as the companion said, and I thought it was really good, be measured in souls. So when we're judged on how we use our tongue, as one who can teach the message of God, we're going to be measured on souls. And there are folks who assert that some people, I'm going to be a teacher, I'm going to teach people no matter what. Maybe they don't have the right information. So those people who jump in and force people to let them be the teacher, to assert themselves, they'll be held accountable. But it doesn't mean when you read that we should shy away from the work of teaching. And there's the group who jump up and want to teach and maybe, like I said, don't have the knowledge. There's another group that's going to stand before God on Judgment Day, and maybe we're in that group. And that group is going to have to account to God their ability to, I had communication skills, I could talk to people. And instead, what I chose to do is I chose to spread gossip or dissension or inflict harmony. That's what I chose to do with my tongue. We don't want to be in that group, but it's something that we'll have to account for. So the idea is just that we all have to, we're all one to teach. We all have to teach on some level. Christianity is and I wrote this down later, I'm jumping ahead of myself, but Christianity is a taught religion. It relies, the spread of Christianity relies on people who understand and who know and who believe, teaching those who don't. So we all have to teach, otherwise it stops. So knowing that's one of the driving forces for us to keep teaching. When I think about though, was I given the ability to talk to folks? Was I given the ability to teach? Was I given the material? I've got my Bible, I've got books written by folks, I've got lots of resources, we all do. What did I do with what I was given? So that drives me to Matthew 25 and 14. So that's the parable of the talents. So who gets rewarded in the parable of the talents? One's using 5-talent, 2-talent person, they got rewarded because they used them. So when the servant that received the 1 talent was brought before the master, what was his excuse for not doing what the other servants had done? He was scared. You reap where you don't sow. I know you're a hard man. So out of fear, it shows not to do with what they were given. So that's the thing that we have to keep in mind, that when James brings up. As someone who teaches, you're going to be held more accountable. But you can't let that be the reason that you don't do it. I know it was there, and I didn't really want to put myself in that risk. I didn't want to step out there because, if I mess up, I get judged greater. It's going to be harsher on me. So I'll just stay back a step and let somebody else take care of it. The 1-talent servant, what happened to him? Got cast out. It's the same parable, it's the same story, it's the same lesson for us. So we're given things that we can do by God, and He expects us to do something with them. And there are some people He's going to give 5 talents to, and some He's going to give 1 to. But it doesn't mean just because somebody else has more or they seem to be better at it, that I just sit back and take mine and dig a hole and bury it in the ground. And I'll just stay. So I know nothing happens to it. I know where it is. And that was the lesson from the parables and from the talent parable. Was the master said, well, why didn't he at least put it in the bank? Why didn't he at least get some interest? If I'm such a bad person, if I'm such a hard man, and you say I reap where I don't sow, why didn't you at least put it in the bank and do something with it? Let it grow for me a little. Why did you take it and just not use it? Why did you just sit on it? Why did you put it in a place that it can't be found? That only you know where it was. That you hid it away. So I think that's a good thing to keep in mind. Like I said, we know the elders are the same way. They're going to be judged based on the flocks that they shepherd. And so it's a giant responsibility, but it's a responsibility that God brings, the Holy Spirit brings on. This is something they desire to do. And so it doesn't say, pick elders from among you and get them up there whether they like it or not. It doesn't say, don't let them leave. Once you're an elder, the only way out is to pass on. It says they have to have a desire. So when they desire that, we know they're going to be judged differently. Teaching is the same way. We'll be judged differently as a teacher than as somebody who's just being called. So back into James. The next illustration that James uses in chapter 3 and 5 and 6 is the comparison of the tongue to a flame. So once the wick of a candle is lit, the flame is an inch. I guess depending on the outside, what the size of the candle is, but maybe an inch and a half flame, really small in stature, it seems to be. So a fire that's controlled can be beneficial. It can be useful. Fire can sustain you if it's bitter cold, and that's what you're trying to stay warm with. It can actually keep you alive. But uncontrolled, it will destroy everything in its path. It spreads faster than we can imagine. So the tongue being like a fire, careless words can drive wedges between husband and wives, between brothers and sisters in Christ. They can stir up strife, hate, honestly, between us. It's a small thing. We had a devotional in August, and it was kind of funny because basically I had chose the same set of verses to talk to the youth group about. And so, like I said, I'm trying to find a way to relate to them. So it's not for entertainment purposes, but it's for how do you engage, how do you make sure they're paying attention. So we went outside and I lit a candle. And I had some examples. I said I had some cotton cord. And the cotton cord I had soaked in rubbing alcohol. So when I lit the end of it, you could barely see the flame. And the cord really didn't burn. The flame was there, and in the sunlight you could barely see it. But it just continued to burn. And then all of a sudden the cord got a little charred as the rubbing alcohol burned off. And then the alcohol was all gone, the cord was just on fire. And I used those examples with the youth group as the folks that they run into every day. So if your tongue is used in a destructive way and it sets somebody on fire, people react differently to that. Sometimes you don't even see it. They're still burning. They're still on fire. But you don't see it. They're really good at hiding from you. It's a word that stays with you. You take it home with you. And it continues to burn you up until it actually burns them up. Sometimes, what I had, my intention with them was the other example I was looking for was a piece of flash paper. I know what flash paper is. Magicians use it. Instantly, as soon as you light it, it's gone. There's no ash, there's no nothing. It's completely, it's just gone. That was the other example that I used with them, is that some people, when the fire of your tongue touches them, it instantly destroys them. And it's a public thing. Everybody sees it. It draws attention to it. And so, knowing that that's a possibility, knowing that that's how some of us operate as far as how we react to verbal things that get said to us, words that get said to us. You have to be careful. You have to know, too, that just because I say something that they didn't seem to react to it, it doesn't mean they're not going to keep it with them. It doesn't mean that it's not just going to keep at them and keep wearing them down. So, whenever we look at an uncontrolled fire, and when I was writing this example, a big flame from a fire set from our tongue really gets the devil's attention. So, fires have been used for beacons, they're using lighthouses, we still use lighthouses, we use signaling lights, we use strobe lights on top of cell towers, things to get people's attention. And an uncontrolled fire is really good at getting the devil's attention. Satan knows that once ignited, he can use and I'm going to call it the winds of the world. You see in California, they talk about wildfires, and they'll show news footage, and in a valley, there'll be a lot of wind, and it'll whip the fire they call it a fire tornado. It actually is a spiral of fire that comes up off the ground and goes up 100 feet in the air. And it's tearing through a forest based on these winds that just drive this fire. And Satan is good. He knows how to use the winds of the world. To take something that was small, to take something that we thought may have been a little insignificant, and drive it into something that's very destructive. So, you think about when those fires get bigger. Whenever they're fighting a fire, they'll dig a fire line. So they're trying to get a fire burn. And they want to control it. They want to keep it from jumping a road. And if the fire stays relatively small and fairly contained, it won't jump the fire break. But if you can whip it up, and the winds can whip it up into something big, that fire will jump a fire break that normally can't get across. And so that's what the devil does with us, is that these, like I said, these small fires, they get whipped up, and then barriers that he's been trying to get over, that we've been strong about, that we've been vigilant of, he's got a new tool then. So once these get whipped up, he's got a way it's big enough where he can jump it. The fire can jump the fire break. It can move on to places that in the past we thought, this is something that we've been trying to tend to, we're trying to make sure everything's okay. But it actually gets to the point where it can jump those fire breaks. So the devil actually counts on Christians to light fires within our church families. That's what he needs us to do. He needs us to make a spot where he can wedge himself in. And so it's our job to use the other side of the sword. It's our job to use the flame for something good. The youth group sings some songs. One of the songs, excuse me, it's called "Light the Fire in My Heart Again." And so the lyrics say, light the fire in my soul, fan the flames, and make me whole. So we can use the power of the tongue for God. We can be, the phrase, I can be on fire for God. We can fan the flames, make it more intense, and use that fire as a good fire. So I use the example of having a fire driven by the winds of the world. We can fan the flames of fire amongst ourselves, a good fire, to get momentum for the exact same reasons. There's a barrier. There's somebody who, let's say we've got a brother or sister who's separated themselves from us, who's stopped attending. And one of the things we can do is if, we're just devoted on getting that person back. And somebody notices and say, hey, did you notice that brother so-and-so or sister so-and-so hasn't been here? a couple of weeks. Well, yeah, I thought they were out of town. Well, they're not. We got to do something. So get a couple of people to notice. Maybe you start make a phone call, send them a text, send them a card. Send a card to me is the best way. Yeah, it takes time to send a text, but it's extra effort to handwrite something, right? It means more, it feels more personal. So you take the time to send that person a card. You make the fire, you create your own fire for God, and then you fan it and you spread it. That's the idea. You can be on one side or the other of this. So what we want to do is use that good fire to attract the eye, to attract the attention of those that are separated from God. We want them to see, hey, I'm different. This group is different. They do things that are different. Why are they different? It attracts their attention. Just like it would attract the attention of the devil if it was a bad thing. You want to get their attention. You want to draw people's gaze over so that they understand and they ask the question. Why are they different? What makes this group of people different than other people I encounter every day? So, one of the last points in verse 6, it says, the uncontrolled fire defiles the whole body and sets on fire the course of life, and it is set on fire by hell. So, in the companion book, this was really interesting. So, Dave probably, I know you do a lot of literary study. So the Hebrew word that was used, they used as a more earthly or more concrete word than the Greek word Hades. The Hebrew word that was used also happens to be the name of a valley that was south of Jerusalem. Old Testament kings, it says wicked Old Testament kings, would actually have human sacrifice in this location. At the time that James is writing this letter, this same location was basically utilized as a dump, as a garbage bin. It was a place of filth. Something was always burning. So the word that James used, and actually Jesus in his teaching, one of his teachings, this is the same word. So it wasn't the Hades, the Hebrew word had a tie to a place that these people would have seen, they would have known about. They knew it was a place of like I said, of filth, of fire, of something that symbolized something bad, in their physical life. So knowing that the tongues have the power to bring souls to Christ and the power to drive souls away. And I mentioned before, Christianity is a taught religion. So as Christians, we have to study, we have to prepare. But it's our job, like I said, to realize that Connie's comment as well, that our tongue works in two directions. And we have to be mindful of it, and we have to be prepared to understand that it's going to get away from us. We have to be mindful of what we say. And sometimes it's not the words. We all know that sometimes it's the attitude. The joke at our house is if Natasha asks me to do something, and it's to the point that even our oldest son, well actually both of them will do it. Somebody, if she says, hey, somebody's gonna, you go ahead and take the trash out, you might hear the phrase, yes dear, in our house. But I can say that two ways. I can say yes dear, or I can say it, yes dear. And so sometimes it's not just the words you use. Sometimes it's the attitude that you say it with. It's the thought behind it. It's the meaning behind it. So there was a second photo, so we'll let you guys make your way to your normal seats.